There's a storm across the valley. The clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum. Today is February 8th, 2023, and this is a new series called Introduction to Easton's Clergy. Today I am delighted to have Rabbi Kenneth Carr and president of Chayai Shalom Temple in South Easton on Depot Street. And the president is our beloved select board member, Craig Barger. Craig, nice to see you again so soon after our
last time, yes.
Our interview with, as a select board member. And welcome, Rabbi Ken.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I've been looking forward to this. I'm delighted. And of course, we have met because you have come to my church, Holy Trinity Lutheran, and participated in the services, reading scripture and supporting Pastor Polk. I understand you're very good colleagues, friends, and so, you're not a stranger to me.
No, he's a wonderful man, and I was honored to be invited to participate in his installation and to count him as a close colleague here.
Yeah, great. Well, he is great. Okay, so tell me about the synagogue and its origins and how you got started, your journey to the ministry. How did you become involved how did you decide to become a rabbi?
Well, I grew up in Hingham with a very small congregation, very small temple in Hingham. And my family was very involved. It was we were so small, the congregation, that we didn't even have our own building. And in a congregation that size, it tends to be that if people want things to happen, they have to make it happen themselves. They can't have the staff to do everything for them. So my parents were those kind of people who volunteered a lot, served in a lot of different leadership roles, and participated in a lot of the programming. And they brought their kids with them. So we were there a lot of the time. My brothers and I were at the temple frequently. And so everybody there knew us. It became a kind of a second home and a very comfortable, very supportive, very productive place for us to grow up. And that kind of nurturing really took for me. That it became a strong part of my own personal growth and my identity, especially as I got older, especially as I became a teenager and participated in youth group events and things like that. Really felt very much at home in the congregation and in Jewish life. And when I went off to college, I knew that I wanted to continue my Jewish involvement, but hadn't really begun to think of the rabbinate as a career. I was thinking more of psychiatry. But then I got into the college level science classes and decided maybe medical school wasn't such a good idea for me. and that caused a little bit of a reevaluation, and I thought about the things that I really wanted to do. I knew that I really loved teaching. I really loved counseling. I really loved being with people in the moments of their lives, the challenging ones and the joyous ones. And I loved being involved in Jewish leadership. And the best way to put all those different pieces together was to go into the rabbinate. And so that was really what motivated me, from my family's example to my congregational community to thinking about my own strengths and interests. That was what set me on the rabbinic path. I took a year off after college and worked at a congregation in Newton and sort of shadowed the rabbi there for a little bit and got some exposure to the real life of the rabbinate, and everything that I saw him do inspired me even more. And so that set me off.
Wow, wonderful. And I'm sure with this small congregation and everybody was dependent upon everybody else, and they worked together probably happily, joyously, and that was important because when you're young, you need that support and you need that joy. But your path has led you to Easton. Now, how did that happen?
I'm delighted to be in Easton. It was not where I originally saw myself going. When I graduated from rabbinical school, when I was ordained as a rabbi, I took a position at a congregation in California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, which was about a 1,200 family congregation. And it was a fabulous experience, a great place to learn as an assistant rabbi out there. And I learned a lot of different elements of both the practicalities of being a rabbi and what a congregation that size can do. As I mentioned, my congregation in Hingham was very small, and so I had never had experience in a congregation that big, and I learned what a congregation that has those kinds of human resources and financial resources, what kinds of things they can do. But there's one thing that they really can't do, and that is to create a meaningful, close-knit sense of community. I would have people come into my office for a life cycle event who had been members of the congregation for 10, 15 years, and we'd have to start by introducing ourselves to each other because we just hadn't had contact in that kind of setting. So that wasn't my vision of the rabbinate. My vision of the rabbinate was a community that felt like a family, that felt like a close-knit community. And so when I finished my assistantship there, I started to look for congregations that were more the size that I had in mind, and I found a congregation in the Philadelphia area where I worked for 15 years, and then when my children were finishing high school, it was time for my wife and me to consider where we wanted Act 3 of our career paths to be, and we looked around, and lo and behold, this wonderful congregation here in Easton was looking, and it felt like a destined match for us. So I feel very, very fortunate to have landed here.
And do you still have family in this area?
I do. My mother lives in Hanover, and I have a brother who lives in Newton and a brother who lives in Arlington.
Wonderful. So you're, in a sense, you were coming home.
Very much coming home. It has felt very, very familiar and very comfortable from the beginning of being here with this community.
So you went from San Francisco and the balmy days of and no snow to 4 seasons here in Massachusetts, and I bet you loved it.
I will tell you that I loved the weather out there. When I first arrived in the San Francisco Bay Area, my rabbinical colleague said, "Welcome to paradise," and it does feel that way in some ways. But I grew up with 4 seasons and missed having them. So even when it's as cold as it was last weekend, I'm glad that I'm here. And I'll say it's a lot easier to be a Boston sports fan in this area than it was in some of the other places that I've been.
Yeah. And so, Craig, tell us about your journey also, your Jewish journey from your early days to what led you now to be president of this temple.
I grew up in a Jewish family in Brookline. We didn't go to shul. We weren't involved in a synagogue. And when I got married and moved to Easton in 1980, my wife wanted to be engaged in a synagogue. So we joined Chayai Shalom when it was on Mechanic Street in North Easton. That was in the old church building on Mechanic Street, which I think now is a condo, or several condos.
Oh, yeah.
And then we noticed a building on Central Street, or the corner of Central and Depot, that was for sale. It was an old church building, was also for sale. So we bought that building, the congregation bought that building. And in those days, there were probably 250 or 275 families that were involved in Temple Chayai Shalom. Now we have about 140. So we are back to a small congregation, but it also has that homey feel, that sense of community. And so my wife and I were involved. We weren't hugely involved, but 4 years ago, the members of the board of the congregation approached me about whether I'd be willing to assume the role of president, which I hadn't thought about, hadn't expected. And my wife, who you know, said to me, "Do it." So that's how I became the president 4 years ago. And I have loved every minute of it. No matter what kinds of things have come up, I have enjoyed it. I have a terrific relationship with Rabbi Carr and with the other members of the board. And I'm very pleased that I was pushed in that direction by my wife.
Yeah, Elaine, she's a go-getter, and now I know she's a pusher too. So tell me, what do you think, Rabbi Ken, the challenges are that you're facing? I mean, I know you're delighted to be back in a congregation that is small enough and yet big enough to be able to do things. So tell me, what are some of the challenges that you think you face?
Well, so I think that certainly the flip side of being a small congregation is sometimes it's harder to be able to do the kind of programming that we might want to do, whether for financial reasons or again for human resource reasons. We have tremendous volunteer leadership. As Craig said, we have a wonderful working relationship and a tremendous volunteer team. As well. I was just talking this morning with somebody who pointed out how many members of the congregation are involved in various volunteer ways in the congregational leadership, and that gives us a whole deep roster of people who can help us run things. But it's always a thought process of who we can find to get involved in different programs that we might want to do.
So tell us about some of the programs that you offer.
Well, we offer programs in all different areas. So we have certainly religious programming. We celebrate all of the Jewish holy days and life cycle events, from baby ceremonies to bar mitzvah ceremonies, weddings, and God forbid funerals when they're necessary. So we have all of those kinds of activities, educational offerings for children and adults across the lifespan, both at the temple and in some other settings. I do a monthly lunch and learn program at Bertucci's in Mansfield. That's quite popular. We do social action kinds of programming, outreach to the community in different ways. We've been very involved with the Easton Food Pantry and with Father Bill in Mainspring, and now the Charity Guild in Brockton as well. On top of some other programming, we've done some Martin Luther King weekend programming, and we've got something coming up a little bit later in the month for Black History Month, and other kinds of social action work. We do a blood drive every year, those kinds of things. And social programming. We just had a tremendous event this past weekend with our brotherhood, running a trivia contest for the whole community, not just the congregation, but a lot of people participate in that. We do a great road race every spring, March 26th this year. If you haven't signed up yet, there's still time. The TCS Shoveltown road race. So lots of different kinds of things in all those areas.
So your footprint is over all of Easton, and that's a good thing. And how about the young people? Are you attracting young people too, or is it? I know sometimes they get involved with other interests, sports, and so forth.
Yeah, well, I think that's another one of the challenges. When you asked about the challenges, people are so busy. So over-programmed in so many different ways, so many different responsibilities. It's hard sometimes to make the time or to find the niche to attract people who have such busy schedules. But we're trying a lot of different kinds of things. We actually just this past weekend had a program for young families to celebrate the Jewish Holy Day of the Trees, marking the sort of moving towards spring. Looking towards renewal and regrowth in the spring, and we attracted some people to that. We've done a lot in the last 2 years, particularly to try to improve and provide more opportunities for outreach, particularly to young families in the community, families with young children, who again are so busy, which is why we try not just regular holy day celebrations, but some also more kinds of social things. We did a little bit at the library last year, and some other things to try to attract those kinds of families as well.
We have a very active membership committee, and the chair is a marketing expert, so we've been able to market TCS across a much larger footprint than just Easton. And our members come from Brockton and Easton and Bridgewater and Sharon, Norton, so we've got a little bit of an outreach that way. But the program that the membership committee has put together has to make us more accessible to other people and more aware of the fact that TCS exists at 329 Depot Street. 239 Depot Street. I'm glad he's here because otherwise I messed it up. 239 Depot Street, so that people can get to know us. I mean, you drive by, a lot of people drive Depot Street, Central Street, and they see the temple, but they really don't know what it is. So the membership committee has done a great job of using social media to try to expand the horizons of people's knowledge about Temple Chai Shalom.
Do you do any virtual programs?
We do. It is. We were not really streaming before the pandemic started, which probably was a little bit of a shortcoming on our part not to have gotten into that world at that point. But the pandemic got us going. And so all of our services on Friday nights are streamed on YouTube Live. And we do a number of our educational programming are set up in that kind of hybrid situation, so that we have both people in the room and people who connect on Zoom, and we are able to be interactive that way. So we do, and a lot of our committees meet by Zoom. So we really try to use that technology and that ability to reach people wherever they are.
Yeah, it's wonderful. That I'm hearing that from so many areas, not just churches and synagogues, but also public agencies, for example. Craig, you know, your select board meetings are Zoom. You know, you can go there in person, but you can also access them by Zoom, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's becoming a wonderful media. People who are homebound, people who have busy schedules and have to squeeze you in, can't drive. Take the time to drive to the city hall, town hall, but can, you know, or even come to synagogue, they can use the Zoom. So it's been a blessing. Right. So tell me, Craig, what do you see in the future for York Synagogue?
Well, we hope that Rabbi Carr will be around until he retires, and so that we still have that leadership, and we're working very hard to, as Rabbi said, to expand our offerings in the community so that more people become aware of us and interested in us. It's a constant struggle with a small synagogue to make sure that you have the resources, both in terms of personnel as well as financially, to continue to keep the doors open. So that's part of the job of the president, is to reach out to the community to try to generate revenue so that we can continue to do the things we're doing. Rabbi mentioned the road race on March 26th. That's one of our biggest fundraisers. And it attracts somewhere between 600 and 1,000 runners from across the state, and in some place, and I think from other states as well. So that's a big deal. The TCS Shelltown Road Race on March 26th.
And where is that going to be?
It starts at RO here in Easton, that not all the details. If you want,
Richardson Olmsted.
Richardson Olmsted. I'm sorry. That's yes. If you want, you can reach out to Adam Kempner or Teresa, his wife, who's actually the road race director, to get more details about that road race on the 26th. But those are the kinds of things that we have to do, and I am known for reaching out to members of the community and the congregation for contributions to the synagogue, which is something that I see as a big role for the president.
Yes.
Craig's being a little bit modest here. He's done tremendous work as the president of the congregation, to be a personal example and a fundraiser to create not just immediate cash inflow, but to really create a culture of giving in the congregation. He's really built that up in such a beautiful way that allows us not just to meet the needs of the congregation, but also to be able to meet more of the needs in the community. We have some of the campaigns that Craig has spearheaded have donated portions of the proceeds to various other organizations, whether it's to the war in Ukraine or to the food pantry. And so really, he's made so much possible, not just for what we do as our congregation, but also for what we can do for the community.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt that at all, because I've known Craig for a long time. And I know that he's very persuasive, but most importantly, he leads with his heart. And so everybody sees that, and they want to participate. They want to do whatever Craig says, except, of course, Elaine, his wife. She can be charmed, but she's her own person. So.
Certainly is.
But anyway,
and she is one of our strong volunteer leaders as
I
well.
bet.
Yeah.
So
Of course
absolutely.
she is. And so then you also are able to participate in Father Bill's Mainspring program, and so do my church, the Holy Trinity, and so do others. I mean, it's wonderful. So what are you doing for Father Bill's? Are you meeting and making sandwiches or suppers?
So we're most involved with the Christmas gift wrapping program and things like that.
That would be my brother's keeper. No?
Did I misspeak?
I think it's both.
Both.
Brother's Keeper and the Father Bill's. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. So outreach is so important, because that's what God wants us to do. Right?
Well, we're here to help take care of each other.
That's right. That's right. And so I'm so pleased to hear that. And I had no idea that you were on Mechanic Street originally, and that you had 240 families. Amazing. But then your outreach is it's not just confined to Easton. So
No,
you're
we're reaching out to other communities. And
Yeah.
as I said earlier, we have members from Brockton, from Sharon, from Norton, from the Bridgewaters, that people have felt comfortable coming to us. One of the nice things about a small synagogue is the feeling of community, feeling of family.
Yeah.
Whenever I talk about Chayai Shalom, I always talk about the fact that it's a family, it's a community. And that's a really important part for people to feel that. And we reach out to our members if they are in need, and that makes people feel really connected. And it's very important to do that.
So many people have told those stories about when they were in need in our congregation, and the rest of the congregation really reached out, embraced them, nurtured them, provided for them. It's really one of the best things that we're able to do for each other.
You know, this is probably, I think, my 5th interview of clergy, and that is a resounding theme. Everybody talks about the family, you know, that they have a family and that they care about each other and reach out and fulfill their needs.
Yeah.
And that's really what God wants us to do. And that's part of our spiritual obligation. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've been involved at Trinity Lutheran as well, as you well know, that we've been over in a couple of the activities that Pastor Polk decided to put together. And as Rabbi Carr said, he's a wonderful man, and very inspiring. And I've enjoyed my interactions with him around Veterans Day, around the involvement when he did the transgender.
Day of Remembrance.
The Day of Remembrance. That
service.
was very well done, and I was very pleased that we were able to be part of that.
Yeah, and we were pleased that you were too. And that's it happens every November, so it's a recurring. And it's just, to me, it's so striking when they start reading the members of the transgender community who have been killed in the past year alone. It's just amazing. And they're all so young, 20s, 30s. Yeah. So, we have to unite. You have to unite and make the world better. So.
And that's part of my joy of working with Pastor Polk, is that we've been involved together through the Easton Interfaith Clergy Council, trying to help us all work together across denominational boundaries, and
Right.
and we developing those relationships so that we can serve the community better.
Yeah. So the Interfaith Alliance, isn't it called the Interfaith Alliance? And you're president.
Well, president is a bit of an overstatement.
Chair.
I use the term convener.
Oh, okay.
I'm the one who calls the meetings,
Uh-huh.
which started when I arrived here. So this is my 7th year in Easton now. When I arrived here, there was another pastor who was doing it, and he then left, and the baton fell, and I
Picked
picked
it
up, and no one is pushing me to take it from me. So.
Yeah.
So I call the meetings, but I have no authority other than that. We all collaborate and decide together what it is we're going to do.
Well, I would like to have you and a few of the members of the Interfaith Alliance come and have an interview so we can understand what you share and what kinds of things you hope to accomplish. So that's a future program. Anyway.
Stay tuned.
And Craig, I'm so impressed with you because you have been a wonderful select board member, and now you're president and all the work you do. But you're very organized, aren't you?
I try to be, but that part of that organization comes from the person who's behind me, who is the one who organizes me.
The pusher.
The pusher. Yes, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
But when I retired, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I'm very pleased that I was offered some opportunities, both to serve the congregation as well as to serve the community of Easton.
Well, you certainly do a sterling job, and we
Thank
are
you.
all grateful for your participation, your contributions.
Thank you,
And
Priscilla.
good luck in your re-election coming up.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you both for joining me today on the introduction to Easton's clergy. And so pleased, Rabbi Ken, that you are here, and may you stay until you retire.
Thank you very much. From your lips to God's ears, as we
Yes.
say. So.
And may it not happen too soon. Right, Craig?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Priscilla.
Thank you very much for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for sharing all the offerings you do. And so those of you out there who are looking for a temple, a wonderful congregation, small enough so that people know you, care about you, and are there for you, take a look, check it out. Check out Chayai, no,
Yeah, you got it.
Chayai,
Yeah.
Chayai Shalom.
Yeah.
You're official now.
Yeah,
I'm
perfect.
official. On Depot Street, at corner of Depot and Central in Southeastern. Most of us pass it a lot. Check out the sign that's there. See what's going on, too. They're letting you know things that are coming up. And those of you who are runners or who like to watch people running, March 26th will be your day, which is an Olmsted school. It's a starting point. I'm sure you can go online on the website you have, and also Facebook, YouTube. It's all there for you to learn about the possibilities of participating in Easton in this synagogue. Thank you for joining me today. This is Priscilla Almquist-Olsen wishing you well. And until next time, be well.